So I'm pleased to be part of this panel. We're going to talk about the project life cycle. We have about 35 to 40 minutes. I will invite, if you are listening to us, to post as many questions as you want in the chat. We have 3 panelists that are going to share their pharmaceutical project life cycle experience. So I will invite them to introduce themselves one by one. And I will start with you, Manuel. If you could give us a little bit of your background.
Hello, everyone. My name is Manuel Ungerer. I'm Italian, live in Singapore for the last 10 years. Have actually spent most of my career, which is about 20 years in pharma, most of the career spent in Asia. And I have gathered some extensive experience working in projects, so being part of very large capital projects in different companies, from concept design to commercial startup. Have then later moved on into operational roles, leading site engineering team mostly, and seen projects and then moving into operations and then basically living the operational life cycle on, right? So my current role is also operational. However, my team also runs all the project activities, small and large. And we do have a couple of large projects at the moment. And so I'm working with the team closely on setting it up for success.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jörg, can you give us a little word of introduction of your background in the project life cycle?
Thank you very much, Pierre. Well, I'm in the pharma industry for more than 30 years now. I've been in site engineering and project engineering and some engineering QA functions and also corporate functions, taking care of GMP compliance in engineering at the moment in the pharmaceuticals. And so my background is actually a chemical engineer by training, which led me into the pharmaceutical industry and then starting to learning from scratch, more or less. Because from industry, from university, you don't get all the details you're facing when it comes to really breakdowns in the facility and such kind of things. So when we talk about projects in pharma, we really need to understand the basics on the one side, but also on the other side, also the compliance framework we need to fit to. And that's my background for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, your turn. Don't forget
to
mute.
Hi. Hi, everybody. I'll do this quick. Okay, my name is Paul C. I'm the civil structural engineer in profession. Currently, my role in Lonza is I'm the head of project degree. Sorry about the background noise. My neighbor started drilling, but I'm the head of project delivery in the APAC region for Lonza. I've been in the construction as a civil structure engineer, right? So I've been in the construction industry for over 29 years, and half of my career is in pharmaceutical, and the other half is on other industrial building, other industrial projects like hydroelectric dam, and also energy project like solar panels projects. So for project life cycle, I think is a topic that my whole life story. So I've been whole life in a life cycle project involved in several pharmaceutical projects in Singapore on Schering-Plough, GSK, Novartis, and then Lonza now. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the first question, and I will direct it to Manuel, right? So I put you in the spotlight. And then I will welcome the other to comment on it. But because you are in that operation and role, and you are currently on site, and your team, like you say, are implementing project, how do you identify and eventually validate the need of a new project on site, right? How can you ensure that everybody is aligned and that that project will start? So how does a project get started in their life cycle?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so obviously the project starts from a business need, right? And I think as the pharmaceutical industry evolves, right, cost competitiveness becomes much more of an essence in the years, and therefore projects will only be approved if there's a real strong business need for it, right? So there is actually a strong consideration on what is the value of the project, what is the long-term benefit, how does it meet the company strategic objectives, and what's basically the long-term plan of it, right? And with that, obviously a business case gets developed, which then obviously has to be endorsed by all the stakeholders part of the approval stage, right? So yeah, long story short, I think it's really creating value for the site, for the organization, seeing on how this site where the project takes place, this will create a competitive advantage to competition or even to internal competition, right? Because with our options, we compete one another with other sites around the network. So yeah, and obviously then it's already a cost analysis done, and really, yeah, the long-term value of this,
Yeah. Paul, maybe to you, what would be your thing? Because Manuel said, it's an internal competition, it's a business need. So if you want to start a project, what would be the things that you would say to define that business need, but also communicate it to the different stakeholders? What's your experience on this?
I think I definitely agree, Manuel. First thing is definitely the business case, but then the business case, is how do the capex people come in term in relation to the business case? It will be capex cost and the schedule, right? So capex cost is, of course, whatever you build will turn out to be a part of the cost on the return of investment and things like that. But actually, that is not the biggest part. A lot of people always think cost is always but in a lot of discussion, cost seems to be always the major factor, but schedule is also another one, because we are all in pharmaceutical line. The product need to roll out. They have a timeline. If you miss the timeline, obviously there will be financial impact, reputation, blah, 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 those kind of stuff. So all this come in. So it's always how you also give the management the confidence that the team or the location that they have selected will able to deliver the project that meet the business case that we're specifying, as what Manuel has said, that will meet the overall business case for the project.
Yeah, what's your experience in initiating a project? I would say you're more on the quality head of that phase. So how do you look at those projects?
Well, there are maybe two aspects I would like to add to this. The one is that getting the quality colleagues involved in these early discussions has a big benefit, because in some cases, countries have specific requirements, which may also have an impact on the scope and the extent of a project. And so very much depending, the budget may in the end be very much depending on which countries you want to deliver your products to. And the second topic is, which comes more and more, is that people are discussing about sustainability. So the total cost of ownership of a facility, a new production area, that's something you then want to see also on the long term. So what are the sustainable parts of this? How do we work with energy? How do we deal with waste management and such kind of topics? Water treatment is a topic. So all of these aspects may also have an impact on your early discussions in your product in the project decisions.
I'm going to bounce on that, Jörg. When we talk about sustainability and environmental, I think it's it's definitely one of the hot topic, the least we can say at the moment, right? Do you feel, because most of, whether it's Lonza or Novartis or Bayer, they are like global company with site around the world, right? And they have corporate policy, and like you say, there is some different context in the different country they operate. Is sustainability more a driver in some of the projects / some of the country than other? Is sustainability a good catalyst for continuous improvement and the capability of having investment that eventually can not only add to the sustainability of the site, but improve the quality of the, quality of life of the employee and others. So do you feel that, to summarize, sustainability is more a driver in some country, in some site than other, or from a global organization, all are equal?
Well, I would see this more as a driver from the corporate side, which has an impact on the local decisions in the end. And it's also driving a competition and also an advantage. So having sustainable approaches being realized at the sites also may be an advantage or a marker in terms of getting people, the good people working at the site, being more sustainable in terms of also taking more care about the local environments, and people rather accept and appreciate such a company being at the sites. And of course, it's also something which on the long term will be a benefit in the return of investment.
Okay, so Paul, I'm going to ask you, because you have those fantastic mountains behind you, right? that look very peaceful. So how is sustainability currently, affecting positively or negatively the project you are trying to do?
For Lonza as well, I think same as like what Jörg said, it's also driving from the corporate side. In fact, since last year, our CEO has put in sustainability as part of the KPI for our bonus. So everyone bonus, part of it will be based on the sustainability performance of the company. So that plays the importance. And then as for project, now every project that we are initiating, during the initiation phase, we actually have to put in a section on sustainability and explain to the management what we plan to do in the project. As your question on whether this will, help to improve the quality and things like that, maybe at the moment I don't see it going that way, but I'm sure. I think what will be good is that if you have delivered a project that you really think you will be given a strong sustainability and things like that, you will give the people a sense of pride to that facility. I think at this current climate, this is pretty important in a lot of young people's mind. I think that's something that we cannot ignore as well. And for sure, now in Lonza, we place quite a lot of importance in sustainability in delivering our project. Yeah.
Okay. Manuel, you want to add?
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Fully agree with the colleagues on this topic, right? I also in our company, this is essential. We all know we as listed company, ESG targets are crucial, right? And I think also selecting location for a large project now in the corporate, the environmental impact plays a role on that, right? So for sure, I think we starting to do more and more in the project preparation to prepare the projects for the after project completion sustainable operation, right? So there's already a lot of very good discussion happening at the initiation of the project on how we deliver a sustainable project. I think at the moment it's very much focused the outcome of the project to be like a sustainable. I personally believe at some point the discussion will come, how do we deliver sustainable projects, right? I mean, I had a conversation with a colleague who just completed a very large project, and he told me the environmental impact the project delivery had is like running 30 years of operation, right? And I think that aspect will have to be looked at eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. In the life cycle of the project, you need to look at the total cost of your project, cost, like of course the business, but the cost to the environment. What I observe, right, because I work in different projects, of course there are the projects that are driven by the business need, that are projects that are driven by a quality remediation, which ultimately will improve the business. there are also a lot of buzz at the moment about digitalization, right? And project, and I want to talk about two aspects. Can you share, you know, what are the digitalization projects that you think are worth doing? And what are the digitalization tools that you are using in your project? Okay, so two different questions. So maybe we start a little bit, what are today, so we start work, Paul, myself, and Manuel, we worked like almost like 16 years ago on the same project. Today, are you using a specific tools, right? Digital tools that allow you to deliver that project faster? So Manuel, I start with you. And what tools it is, and you know, what would you like to have and recommend to the audience to look after?
Well, I think we try, especially when we have larger capex available or larger investments, right? There's a big opportunity to introduce new digital tools, right? So I think, yeah, there is on one hand, we're trying to apply new tools, right? On the other hand, we also try to leverage on tools which have been established, and when we have our EPCM partner, right, they have a lot of experience running projects, and they have evolved in different project applies and start to learn tools, right? And for me, how can we apply for our project those tools which are already established and working, right? And without mentioning names here, there will be some very great application we'll have. And afterwards is what are the tools we can start introducing which fits in our current technology ecosystem, right? And I think tools such as NEAT, right? I mean, very well established in the industry. Certainly we would like to use it as well, because I think the benefits are very clear and will create massive benefits for the project.
Maybe Paul, can you know, of course you use tools during the project, and in the frame of the life cycle of the project, whether they are, you know, tools used by the EPCM company or by the project team, how do you make sure that eventually some of those tools benefit the project after, you know, the construction or the qualification? Are there tools that, you know, will benefit the site longer than just the project execution?
Yeah, I think previously when I was in together with Manuel, we built the Novartis site, right? I think in that project, I would say that project we did try to do something. We did think about doing something like the 3D models and all those things that can the BIM model that can use to use it for the life cycle or the project. But then it's actually too how should I put it? It's at the end we did not do it in phase 2 because we find it there's too many unknown, and then we need a lot more people to align. In fact, we need IT, OT, and even operation to align to understand what they want. So if you have not done all this study, then you really can't just simply jump in and you thought you can have a system that you apply, right? But back to the tools side, I definitely we have developed some tools, like you say, NEAT is one of them. Definitely Unifier, so that we make sure the documentation are properly documented, and then we have a proper documentation structure using Unifier. And in Lonza also we use this other things like Plan View to do portfolio reporting and things like that. So those kind of tools is always there. I think it's just how people use it in the most efficient way, I guess, is the where the question, you know. But if you ask me if I have seen anything that have done digitally from the construction all the way to the life cycle project, unfortunately, I have not seen anything that has been really how to say be really useful for the operation phase of the project. But I hope NEAT and those tools that we use will eventually help the site to run their operation better. Yeah.
Jörg, any comment?
Yeah, well, we have a couple of years ago started to establish the BIM. and we took some time to get the foundation in place for such a BIM usage for projects. And this really is a project tool, running project, developing projects, designing, and in the end, checking out whether the installation really meets what has been planned in the beginning. And that's what we really benefited from in one of we had a revamping project at one of the sites. We utilized this BIM, and this really helped us to keep all the different working threads aligned for this project. And you can imagine, for a legacy facility to do a major upgrade in such a running facility, it's really a big topic, and you need to have all those information available all the time, keep it updated, and so on. And this site actually also managed to bring this BIM model back into the operational environment. And we at the moment are rolling out a digital platform for engineering documentation, and the BIM model will be part of this engineering documentation. And as part of this Corona situation, we all recognized how beneficial it is to have data available on an electronic digital platform rather than to have it on paper in a cupboard, because it's not accessible. So the accessibility of such digital platforms, that's much better. And then this engineering document management system will have an integration interface with our quality management system, with a system that runs our qualification efforts. So all of this is going to be integrated and accessible via this engineering document management system. So that's something where you really are looking into and have first results probably end of the year, how this properly works at our sites.
Okay. No, that's what we observe in general, right? There is a challenge of the cost of implementation of the tools, the challenge of the mindset of the people by, having a positive experience, and then they will generally want to continue to use the tools. And I think at the moment there is a lot of trial and error from a lot of companies that are jumping in that digitalization. I think there is clearly benefit of doing so, but we, BIMs have been there for, I remember in 2008, we already had the 3D model. So how can we not be too reliant on one vendor, right? How can the data still remain the asset of the company, the manufacturer, and don't become like a ransomware for the digital tools, software solution? For me, that's what we will need to balance in the future. Talking of, I'm looking at the time, and talking about time, I want to hear from you. How do you balance schedule and quality on your project, right? What is the best way? Because they will be fighting, you need to spend some time. We had in the GSK project someone who put a big poster that says, quality is better than speed, but speed is better than perfection. So 16 years later, Manuel, how do you handle the challenge of schedule and quality?
I remember that poster, so it's always there in my mind. No, but I think what Jörg said earlier, right? One key is to get quality involved very early in the project definition, right? Because I think when you make quality part of the solution, there is a lot more you can streamline upfront rather than creating something and bring quality in later, because then quality will have a different approach or could have a different approach, right? So I think that helps a lot by having an early connection. I would think even still at the design stage, right, where changing design is much easier than later on, right? Cost impact or impact on schedule is much lesser than what it will be later. And yeah, for me, it's building those ERSs, building those design requirements together from the beginning to align on expectations and make sure quality aligns with the fit for purpose mentality. Yeah.
Jörg, you want to share your experience of being involved early on the project, or too late? How do you, I put you a little bit as a quality voice, but how do you make sure that you help the project more than slow it down? And when do you need to slow down a project to make sure quality is managed right?
Well, actually, I'm an engineer and I'm a part of an engineering organization, but of course, very close collaborating with our quality organization in the company. And that's something that's very important for the engineering functions, to have close connections to quality. And as Manuel already mentioned, early involvement, good alignment with quality, that's crucial for project success. And when we talk about quality, schedule, and budget, we have the typical triangle situation. We have three topics which do not always align properly with each other. Yeah, but still, what is the objective we're looking for? The objective in all of our projects is to supply quality product to our patients. And so we, in any case, need to look for a quality outcome as fast as possible, so that the products we are producing are available, especially if we are looking for some new entities in our portfolio. Then it's crucial to ensure that they are available rather early than later. Yeah. And so quality is something which should be considered at a high end. Of course, in some cases, we do not really understand what really is we need to focus to provide this quality. In many cases, we just dump the requirements to all of the aspects of a project. And that's something we really need to learn and understand. What do we need to focus on to, in the end, have the quality available that we need. And that's really to identify those critical design elements, those critical aspects in our projects, and then to make sure that those are considered properly. And maybe in other areas, we can also go for an 80-20 approach, as already mentioned earlier.
I'm just giving a C&Q training, and I think, like Manuel has said, involving quality as soon as possible to understand what is critical, and have I would say, one of our stakeholder input on it is crucial. And like you say, focusing on what is important will allow you to have a speedy execution, because you're not losing your time on what are the things that are not important. Paul, what is your, when do you like to call quality on your project, and when you want to call your scheduler? Like when do you, as a project manager, when do you make the balance?
Yeah, I think before I answer that question, maybe I go back to just now what Jörg has said about, the quality. I think the definition of quality is important here as well. I mean, if you ask anyone, we are pharmaceutical project, like you cannot say you would like to build a poor quality facility. There's no, right? It's never. So yes, quality is there, but the definition of quality, we have a quality that, are you talking about state-of-the-art quality, gold-plated quality, or you're talking about fit for purpose quality? I think most of people, but there are projects that they want to make a statement for the company, and then that's why they go slightly beyond the fit for purpose, and then they want to have a, set it as a standard, or they call it state of the art. So I think that's why this question sometimes you need to ask with a objective of trying to understand what the management is trying to really look for when you say quality versus timeline. I think this is important, because we need to know which one to weigh when we make project decision. Yeah. As for your question regarding when to involve quality, I agree that with Jörg, it's as early as possible. But if you ask me, you really have to no later than concept design. That would be my take, because again, as we said, as early as possible. But of course, in feasibility and those things, maybe there's not too much of things for quality input to be required because you're more talking about site selection and things like that, which doesn't really involve quality. But when you start the concept correct is a important foundation, and one of the required foundations is to make sure we design the facility that is according to the quality requirement as well. I think that's where we should at least start from a concept design. That would be my take. Yeah.
Okay. And maybe I'll take it with you, Paul. When you do your whole project, one of the because a project is a start and an end, right, as per the definition of the PMI. At the end of your project, what will be your advice to successfully move from a project to an operation mindset, right? What do you need to put in place during the project that will allow that transition to operation?
I think during the project, we need to know when we need to start bringing in the operation to be involved. So you should have during the project phase, you cannot just thinking about, as a good project manager, in my advice would be that you cannot just thinking about your project. You look at your end of the tunnel and then you just thought, okay, I just achieved that. I just OQ the equipment. Hooray, I just walked away, and then those guys will figure out how to run the facility themselves. If you do that, then that project. So you need to think for operation readiness as well. So a true successful project is that you already, when you do during your project execution, you integrate together with the operation team and then come up with an operation readiness framework. So to make sure that when you do because during certain stage of the construction, maybe you need to, or commissioning, you need to involve them in terms of training, how to operate the equipment, where are the areas to take note, things like that will help them to take over the facility much more efficiently and run it much more properly. So maybe one example I can give is like, for instance, you should also think about whether the operation have sufficient resources to start taking over the facility. So you don't just think about your project, you commission the thing, but if you have nobody to pass through for the facility to run in maintenance and operating it, then the whole project will still fail.
Yeah, how do you see the end of the project and the change of ownership from the project to the operation team?
That's me now, or sorry?
Yes, but just
asking. Sorry.
No,
sure. And I would fully agree with Paul on this topic. You need to come to getting operators, your operations team being involved in the project, and the best would be to have this involvement maybe during SATs or during OQs. So because this is a time where operators really get to know and better understand the equipment they're going to use later on. So from my experience, to have operators being involved in these test cases on the one side helps your project team to have less capacities being involved in these topics, but also to achieve a better acceptance of the equipment and better understanding of the equipment for later operations by the operations team. And of course, there's also a certain pride when they are involved in this project, and that's then the taking over of ownership. And this is one of the critical topics. At one point, you somehow there's a shift in the ownership of your equipment, and that's something which is not just done on a paper. This is a mindset, and so to prepare for this, you really need to get the operators properly involved in these late stages in a project.
Okay.
They should also see, and sorry to add, and they should at this point also see how far their requirements have made it into the installations, because this in the end also provides some, well, this is my idea and this now made it to the real equipment. And so that's something which really makes people taking this and getting better ownership of their equipment for the operations.
Thank you. I'm going to ping to see if Manuel is still there because we don't see him anymore. But
I'm here, but my camera stopped working. Apologies for that.
Okay.
Now, fully aligned with the colleagues. Yeah. So I always think our main customer is the site head, right? And my site head, what she always says is the project is only successful when the first batch is manufactured, right? So before that, even you deliver your project super efficiently, effectively, it doesn't matter because it hasn't created any commercial value to the business, right? So yeah, aligned, right? If we can bring in operators earlier, we're trying to build a project team built of project experts and operational people to work together throughout the project, right? That the handover is happening in the project, right? So it's a much smoother transition. I hope it will work, but definitely as soon as operations has to get involved early because they will have to run PQs and then keep it alive after. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all. I'm going to do a quick round. If you want to add anything, maybe a piece of advice for people that have to run project. Paul, what will be if you have to summarize in a marketing sentence, what's the best way to run a project in your view?
For me, the best way to run project is always do proper planning. Planning is my keywords. You always try to plan, and then this will be good. You have as a good project manager, you should have a vision on how you're going to complete the project. You have it's like a flashback, flash forward, or sorry, not flashback, flash forward on how you see the project will be done. Of course, plan will always change. So in the midst of the project, then you need to continue, make sure you monitor and adjust accordingly. I think change management is definitely one of the key capability that a project manager must possess. Yeah, but it's an interesting field. Everyone should become a project manager once.
Jörg, what's your
Yeah, well, as Paul already said, you need to have a clear idea of how to deliver a project in the beginning. And to really support this, you need to have good engineering practices being established in your project team and also at the site, at the operations engineering and so on. So this is a basis. And then for your C&Q topics, you really need to well understand the critical topics. So what is critical to product quality and patient safety, and keep this in mind so that you really know where to focus and spend capacity in case there's a need for this. So I think if you have these topics considered, then you're ready for success in the project execution.
Thank you. Manuel, how do you achieve successful project?
For me, now just a few points which I think are important for the project management, right? One, as you said, as you bring in quality in early, we bring operations in early, right? Build a strong REC, right? That everybody knows what to do in the project and we don't step on each other's foot, right? And obviously project management stays in the lead on the project until it's handed over, right? With that key, strong communication, right? To have good stakeholder management, communicate well with your stakeholders and held a very good risk register, right? Which really don't escalate risks, which the project can easily manage, escalate the risks, which are critical, right? So that stakeholder understands what this is, I mean, what needs to be looked at or what not, yeah.
Okay, thank you all for your participation. So again, I take it that involving quality at the right time, as early as needed, involving the people and the operator will make them own the facility, and then they will, be willing to support the project. And I believe if you do that, you will be able to deliver quality on time, which would be the most cost-effective way to do a project, right? So thank you very much for participating in that panel.
Thank you for moderating us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.